Welcome to Ask the Expert North Texas here on News Radio 1080 KRLD. I'm David Rancken.
And I'm Kristin Diaz. And we all know that finances right now are a little tight, from the way that inflation has been, or perhaps you're getting closer to retirement and you might be looking at your funds thinking, man, what am I going to do? Or maybe you're patting yourself on the back. You've prepared pretty well. Either way, there have been a lot of different stories coming out all across the nation where most Americans say they're unable to handle a financial curveball. So here to talk to us on today's Ask the Expert, we have Jade Warshaw. She is the co-host of the Ramsey Show, joining us in the KRLD Afternoon News. And you know what? It's got to be just a huge topic of interest because there's so many different legs to this topic, right? People are either feeling really good about it or not at all. It's very, it's very yin or yang. How do you see most people's retirements right now? Do you think that we are prepared with this market?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. And, I have heard it from all angles. Hosting the Ramsey Show, we have people calling in all the time asking about, my finances, my savings. There are a lot of factors at play right now. The economy, obviously, inflation, student loan debt. There are so many things that are affecting Americans' ability to save and feel confidence with what they've saved. And so ultimately, the way we teach it, it's a series of steps so that you can make sure you're covering all of your bases with the ultimate goal of having that retirement, being able to live and give like no one else, right? And so what we see a lot of times is people get overwhelmed because they're trying to do too many things at one time. They're trying to pay off their debt. They're trying to pay their month-to-month bills. They're trying to save, and they're trying to save for retirement. And so we just like to break that down and say, hey, first things first, let's just get a quick savings set aside. Because like you said, most Americans, I believe it's 59%, could not cover $1,000 emergency if it happened today. So first things first, let's just get you $1,000 set aside. If you have that, you're ahead of most Americans. And then after that, we can start checking off the list of other financial things that we need to worry about.
There has been some studies coming out talking about, especially Gen X. They're the next ones after the baby boomers that are going to be heading into retirement. And the average person in Gen X right now has about $40,000 saved in retirement, in their retirement funds, if they have that much at all. Is that getting into a danger zone of being almost too late to start putting stuff away?
Absolutely not. No, not at all. Because what happens is if you start saving for retirement before you have certain formats laid, paying off your debt, having 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, what's happening is they're investing into their retirement before they've got that foundation. And as a result, if an emergency pops up, they're having to dip into their 401k, which is absolutely the worst, right? You dip into your 401k, you're left with taxes, penalties, and if some reason you lose your job, right now you're on the clock. You've got a year to get this money paid back before you're hit with worse penalties. And so that's why we say, look, pause your investing for just a moment, get your debt paid off, save up 3 to 6 months. Most people are able to do that in 1 to 3 years, and then start investing 15% of your income. And you are not too late. Compound interest is a wonderful work of art that it will continue to work for you. And a lot of people in their 40s, they go, oh my gosh, I'm too late. I waited too long. I'm like, no, you've still got 25 years, of your working career. If you work till you're 64, 65, to let that compound interest work magic for you.
Let's talk about another generation on the other spectrum, the Gen Zers. Their workplace habits are a little bit different than what the baby boomers or even the Gen Xers typically were, as far as getting a 401k, having their companies contribute. I mean, for Gen Zers, if they did have their companies contribute, the pandemic kind of threw things off. What is the trajectory for their retirement right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, we have faced a lot of different things coming at us, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's record inflation. I know for me, it was the Great Recession, right? There's always something that's coming at you economically that's like, for this reason, I am not able to XYZ, right? And so we've just got to get over that and go, look, every decade is going to come with its own storms. And when it comes to saving and saving for retirement, it is up to you. We really can't depend on the government. We really can't depend even on our jobs to offer us everything that we need. Luckily, there are options like Roth 401k or, Roth IRAs if your job is not offering a 401k, or if they are, but they're not offering a match, right? You can shift over, do a Roth IRA. There's other things in HSA if you've got that high deductible insurance account. So there are options there to continue to save. But at the end of the day, you can't let these external factors stop you from creating the life that you want to live financially.
There are a lot of people also that are looking at retirement and they have it in their mind. They have the mindset, I'm not going to be able to retire. I'm not going to be able to afford it. And we tend, if, after the retirement age, people can live 10, 20, 30 years after that. And if they're not working, they got to be living off their savings.
That's right. The rule of thumb I like to go by is when it's time to retire, you'll kind of know because you want to be able to live off the interest basically and not touch the nest egg. So hopefully if you have invested accurately, right, we teach to invest across 4 types of mutual funds, growth, aggressive growth, aggressive growth, growth and income, and international. There it is. And if you're doing that, we want to make sure that you're getting at least 8 to 10% growth, right? And if you're able to, after inflation, live off of that 8 to 10% of growth, you're not even touching the nest egg. That is a great place where you want to be. Okay. So that's what we're looking towards. And if you're able to do that, and it might take you working a few more years, right? So I think that sometimes we think that retirement is an age, but really no, it's a number that you get to where you feel confident to say, okay, I can step away and still live the life that I want to live financially.
No, 1,000%. But living the life that people want right now, it seems like not only with inflation, but more and more people are dipping into that retirement fund thinking, oh, I've got that money. I can use that money. What's a big lesson right now that you would like our listeners to know about not touching that money? It's almost like that video where they had the little kids with the candy and say, I'll be back in 3 minutes. Do not touch the candy.
Look, when you do that, you're robbing yourself. You are robbing yourself of your future. You're robbing yourself of your future peace, your future finances. And I would just advise people, do not touch your savings. Do not touch your retirement savings. If you don't do anything else, save up 3 to 6 months liquid cash that you can access for emergencies. Emergencies are those things that, they're unavoidable. They're completely unexpected. And it's like, hey, my tire just blew out on the interstate. I got to dip into this and get this money. Or, I didn't know that this was coming up with tuition. I've got to be able to pay it to continue school, right? You want to be able to go into your emergency fund for that. If you were to lose your job temporarily, you've got 3 to 6 months of cushion. So you're not having to pull from your 401k. So again, getting that foundation, paying off your debt, saving 3 to 6 months of expenses, and then and only then start investing 15% of your income into retirement.
At what point should people start talking to financial planners about their future and their present?
Yes, that is so good. We always suggest financial planners to help you. And for us, again, once you get to that step 4, that's a great place to start. I say step 4, that's when you're investing 15%. It's a great place to start talking to someone. We've got financial planners here through Ramsey Solutions. There are endorsed providers. We vet them. They will teach you. They will help you. And you need that because a lot of people go into investing and they have no clue what it is, right? And so instead of having someone who's just going to say to you, put your money here, do this with your money, you don't want that. You always want to understand what you're investing in, why it's a good choice. And you need someone with the heart of a teacher that's going to teach you that and not make you feel silly for asking questions, right? So yes, the right financial planner is who you need.
Absolutely. And the other thing is a lot of people who might have these, for example, a 401k through their company, they're contributing that money. And to this point, they don't know what's happening with it. They're just, oh, I guess I got a statement, every month that they still have my money and, somebody contributed to it. Cool. But they don't know how it's being used, where it's being placed, and how important it is for people to actually know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the fact of the matter is sometimes your company can offer you a 401k, right? But the funds that they have available for you to choose from aren't great. They don't perform well. And you need a professional to be able to look at that, understand what your personal goals are and say, hey, there might be someplace better that we can invest your money. Maybe we need to look into a Roth IRA where you get to choose the funds and we can have a better rate of return for you. So there are all sorts of angles to this, that there's a reason that there's professionals, right? You wouldn't go, if you needed a root canal, you wouldn't just ask your best friend to do it, right? You want to go to a person who knows what they're talking about so you don't end up feeling the pain later, right?
One thing that we talk about a lot is the fact that schools don't really prepare people for adulting, and adulting classes would be incredible in high schools. At what point should we start learning these things about investing, about something as simple as a checking account or anything like that? At what point should that education start?
Oh, as soon as possible. Look, here we've got curriculums that we're getting into schools because we know people need to have those foundations in personal finance. They need to understand how to work their money. There was a survey that was done, and I believe it was 77% of adults saying they did not feel comfortable coming into the real world, right, and managing their money because they never learned this in school. And so we're starting to see more and more states come on board and say, look, like the state of Florida recently came on and said, look, we need to start offering this in schools, at least to half a credit, so that these people can learn this basics like budgeting, how to manage your money, how to save. The earlier that we can start learning those principles, the better. Even with young kids, they can start to understand the idea of I work and I can do 3 things with my money. I can give it, I can save it, right? I can spend it. So we need to start introducing that. The earlier, the better, because, you're never too early to learn these principles.
Anything else, Jade, that you think is a hot topic in your world right now?
Oh, student loans.
Oh, well,
Student
of course.
loans.
Yeah.
That is the buzzword right now.
Yeah.
And of course, I've got to tell people with student loans coming back, I want everybody to understand 3 things. You've got to get organized. We know that a lot of those service providers have changed. So get organized, find out who's holding your loan, find out how much the entire balance is, and then find out how much you owe a month. And then with that information, I want you to be aware of these savings plans and payment plans that are out there. Some of them are not all they're cracked up to be. The big one right now is the save plan, in which I have a big red button that says, do not do it. Do not do the save plan. You'll be paying for life if you do that. There's a lot of fine print that they're not talking about in that plan. And then, of course, I just want people to get on a budget, figure out, do you have the money to make this payment? Don't stick your head in the sand, find out. And if you need to do something like maybe sell something off, like your car, right, to get that money back in your budget so that you can make these payments with peace, do what it takes, because they're knocking on the doorstep, right? October, here they come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is Jade Warshaw, who is with the Ramsey Show today on Ask the Expert here on KRLD. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.